don't wait. If you want to make a drink now, you don't want to wait for, go ahead. I wouldn't wait. I'd be drinking immediately. Okay. So do that. And then making the case for the Negroni this evening. She is the guardian of gin, the vanguard of vermouth, the queen of Campari, Amy Yakuboff. Amy, hi.
Fast introductions, Dan, and I appreciate that because it just makes me feel really good about myself. So thank you.
Well, you should feel good about yourself. How are you feeling about tonight? You're going to make the case that the Negroni is a
I'm
superior
pumped.
cocktail to the old
It
fashioned. It's a
is.
tough
I
argument
have
to make.
so much. I have so many reasons why I feel it's superior, and also I think maybe the reason why we got split between old fashioned and Negroni is, well, I love the Negroni, but old fashioned, you're older than me, so
Oh,
it just makes sense, right?
oh,
Hey,
wow. The gloves are off early
I've
tonight.
already, I've only
Okay,
had a sip
okay.
of the Negroni too, so
I'm not even drinking in them's fighting words. I thought
um,
I thought it was because I have this old timey, old fashioned bar thing going on.
yeah.
That's not it.
No, but
Okay.
true to, Campari being a little bittersweet here and there, a little saucy.
Okay.
Yes, Team Negroni. I hope I have many Negroni fans in the house because we're gonna hopefully talk about it a bit more. But I love the Negroni. I think what makes the Negroni so special is the Campari, and there are plenty of Negroni variations that are out there. But I think variations are great. I have a ton of favorites, but in order for it to be a Negroni in general, it should have Campari, not a white Negroni, not a green Negroni. It's a Negroni. But the star in the Negroni is Campari, which was created, back in Italy in 1860. But the Negroni wasn't invented until 1919 when Count Camillo Negroni walked into Cafe Casoni in Florence, and yeah, I guess maybe he was having a bad day because he asked the bartender to swap out something a little stronger than just soda water in his Americano, and that became gin. So, easiest cocktail, equal parts gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari. Give it a stir, you're good to go. And what I think is also great about it is it's all booze. There's no needed simple syrup. If you make your old fashions with muddled fruit, you don't need any of that. There's a lot of fruitiness in Campari, obviously, lots of bitter orange. So I think because it's simple, it's super complex, and it can take you from day to night really easily is kind of a few of the things for me that set it apart and make it a killer cocktail.
Wow. Well, you've certainly made the case there for this drink,
Mm-hmm.
Amy. I want to tell everybody, by the way, this is an interactive thing. And for those of you who've been here before, welcome back. For those of you who are new, good to see you. And pretty soon I'm going to be picking on people. And if you want something, say something or jump in the chat and say, and Keith will tell me and we'll make it work. We will communicate. We'll figure this out. Just like we figured out the last 13 damn months. We're going to figure out this Zoom tonight. All right. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the old fashioned. All right. This is a relatively easy drink to make, the old fashioned. And it is the very definition of a cocktail. It's spirit, sugar, water, bitters. And that was laid out in a newspaper article in 1806 in Hudson, New York, called the Balance and Columbian Repository. We've all read that one, right? So the provenance of the drink, every drink that we've ever had on here, there's probably 5 different origin stories. The old fashioned's no exception. There's a place in Louisville that claims to have invented it in 1880. There's another place in New York City that claims to have made it. What we do know about this drink is that by the time cocktail recipe books began appearing in the late 19th century, what we would call the old fashioned today was often referred to as the whiskey cocktail. And so speaking of book, in 1948, a New York tax attorney who was sort of a cocktail whiz, published a book called The Fine Art of Mixing Drinks, which to this day remains an indispensable bartending guide. David Embry was the author of it, and he held that there were 6 cocktails that reign above all others. And perched atop his list is the old fashioned. It's just, again, it's a marvel of simplicity and elegance, and it's endured almost as long as these United States. And so for the better part of the 19th and 20th century, it was probably the most fashionable drink going. But by the 1990s, it had all but disappeared as, the masses sort of fell under the siren spell of frothy, fruity atrocities like the Cosmopolitan, the Long Island iced tea. So, but then in the early 2000s, the old fashioned had been restored to its rightful place atop the list. So now here's how we're going to make, I'm going to make it. I've got a glass here, a little, mix, and I'm going to take a sugar cube. I'm going to put that sugar cube in there. And then I'm going to take a couple of drops of water and I'm going to, like so, put them on there. Okay. Very carefully, gently. And then I've got some Angostura bitters here. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 drops of Angostura bitters. And I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to go like this because because I forgot to bring my muddler. Let me put a little bit more. And I'm just realizing as I'm sitting here that in my kitchen is an orange that I was going to use to garnish it with, but whatever. Again, we're flying by the seat of our pants. So now I got this going. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big ice cube in there. And then we're going to get to the important part. And that's this. That's the bourbon. And you can do it with bourbon. You can do it with rye. I'm going to do it with bourbon. And tonight I'm going to do it with Kentucky Owl Confiscated. I love this. I love this whiskey. It's 48.2% alcohol by volume. So it's got a kick to it, but it's not too overpowering. Okay. If you start getting up above 50% ABV, it's going to really knock your socks off. So I'm going to take this and then I'm going to take my little jigger here and I'm going to pour my bourbon in. And this is 2 ounces, which we all know is not enough, right? That in there. And then we're going to do a little bit more. Maybe another ounce. All right. And I'm going to pour that in. And then I stir. See the stirring motion here? If anybody needs any help with stirring, raise your hand. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Everybody's got stirring down. I did forget the orange. So what I would do is express that orange peel over the drink, but I did remember my cherries. So I'm going to do a little cherry. Sometimes when I'm feeling frisky, I put 2 cherries in.
Are you muddling the cherries or just floating them on top?
No, I'm just putting it in.
Okay.
There. And you know what? Guess what, Amy? Tonight, it's Frisky Dan. 2 cherries. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't hate me.
It's a snack and a drink all in one.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
We going. Here we go. All right. Team Old Fashioned. And by the way, I love the Negroni. I will not talk crap about the Negroni, but I do think the Old Fashioned, in my opinion, it's safe to say, is a more enduring drink. Again, it is an exercise in simplicity. The other thing with this drink is, you can mess with it. You can swap in brandy. We could do rye. You can do a lemon twist in place of the orange. It's a drink that's similar to the Manhattan, the Sazerac. The flavor profile is sweet. And I would say on a scale of 1 to 5, the strength of this thing is a 5. So take it easy over there, Bob Fox. I see you. He's got that look in his eye. He's like, all right, yeah. So who's on Team Old Fashioned here? We got all right.
It's kind of looking like the Facebook polls.
Okay, yeah. What were we at, Keith? What did the final poll numbers come in on with Facebook in terms of preferences?
Yeah, it was like 68% of people were choosing the Old Fashioned over the Negroni on our Facebook poll.
I got my work cut out for me.
All right, who out there can help me make the case for the Old Fashioned? Somebody throw up a hand over here.
I saw John Kruger had his hand up.
John Kruger, where are you, John? I don't see you. I don't see John. Is everybody in this room? I can't see you. Oh, there's John. Hi, John.
Driving down the freeway. So I'm not mixing drinks.
I was going to say, quick, get John off there. No. All right, John, tell us about why you love the Old Fashioned.
Oh, I like it just because it's got a good kick to it, and it's got sweetness, and it's simple as heck to make.
Okay. That's a good one. Do you like Negronis as well, or do you care to?
I don't have them often, but so I will be interested to try out the recipe that's shown tonight by Amy.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I was actually just cheating and making my another tea Negroni, as we call them, a little smaller Negroni. Because the great thing about simplicity is just choose a side. I went small side. And just fill it up 3 times each time with my Campari. I'm using Antica, Carpano Antica, and also Roku Gin is my gin for tonight. And it's amazing because it has a lot of great citrus forward notes like yuzu. And it works beautifully with this recipe. It's like the most classic tasting Campari Negroni you can get. Just giving it a stir with this really fancy green plastic stir that I found. And like Dan, I forgot the orange in the kitchen to garnish it with, and I'm not getting up now to get it. So I went
not a good day to be an orange. You've been left out of the mix.
Actually, it is. It's like you got saved and spared. But I went 1 ounce Campari, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, and 1 ounce Roku gin, and that is it. My second favorite tends
to be the classic ratio on a Negroni is a 1-1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it a really easy drink to make. You know, you just boom, 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 you're done. But some people like to do it a little bit gin heavy. The thing about the Negroni is it can get out of balance very quickly. You know, especially you go a little heavy on the Campari, especially it's going to ruin the drink. Where as opposed to, you know, the old fashioned, it's tough to screw it up. You know, because essentially it almost falls into the category of the martini, where I love this, by the way, where somebody went, you know, what if I just want to drink 3 ounces of whiskey and I don't want to be judged? Well, you know what? Put a sugar cube in there and call it an old fashioned. It's just like the martini, you know, and people do it without any vermouth and they just, you're drinking 3.5 ounces of gin. That's all you're having is cold gin. And it's like, no, but it's a martini, you know, but it sounds better than saying, can I just have 4 ounces of gin? Right.
And I think, but with old fashions, if you're using simple syrup rather than a sugar cube, it could definitely get a little too sweet or a little out of balance.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Let's hear from somebody else here, Amy. Let's get one of the Negroni folks in. Who wants to back up Amy here on the Negroni?
I think I saw Morgan drinking a Negroni.
Morgan, where are you?
Yes.
Where's Morgan?
Hi.
Hi.
I've got a Negroni and an old fashioned.
Let's agree that Morgan is just incredibly greedy right now. Come on, Morgan. Pick a side here.
The nice thing is you don't have to choose, right? Like sometimes you want an old fashioned and sometimes you want a Negroni. My thing is I've always loved an old fashioned, but it's only over the last probably 3 or 4 months that I really taught myself how to learn a Negroni, how to learn to like it. It took some learning, but now that I do, I crave it, and it's great before dinner. And it's great after dinner.
And I think it's great during the day. Like, I think it's an awesome brunch drink because it's like bitter orange, which is kind of like orange juice, which is kind of like a mimosa, except not really. It's so much better than that. But it's like it takes time to learn to appreciate Campari. And it's like it's doing, you know, your palate is doing a workout and it's achieving this level of tolerance towards these bitter flavors that, you know, amari spirits have. And it's cool to see, like, actually, I can tolerate this. It's something that when you first have it's so jarring and it's super polarizing, but then it's a, you know, a workout. You pace yourself and you eventually get there. And then you're like, holy shit, this actually makes sense altogether. And it's kind of a beautiful, beautiful moment when that happens.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's got, you know, look, the Negroni's got a great origin story on its own. There was a Florentine nobleman named Count Camillo Negroni. And as the history has it, a guy named Gary Regan, the late Gary Regan, put this in his book he wrote a book called The Negroni, Drinking to La Dolce Vita. And the story was that he wanted the bartender to whip up an Americano that had a little more kick to it. And because the Count was a bit of a badass, he had spent some time in the States wrangling rodeo bulls. This was not a guy to be trifled with. And the bartender's name was Fosco Scarselli. And so he swapped in gin for club soda to deliver that added oomph that the Count desired. And of course, bequeathed us with a drink for the ages, Negroni. So that's that origin story. And by the way, just so we know this, you never shake a Negroni. Never.
Mm-mm.
The orange twist garnish is kind of a sacred and essential component. You're forgiven, Amy, like me. You've left it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But if you're tempted by lemons, you can get away with a lemon on the old fashioned, a lemon peel. But if you're tempted by lemons with the Negroni, resist. Okay, so don't do it.
I saw a quick question come through from Kate about, can you explain amari? Excellent question. So the singular is amaro. So I would like to buy a bottle of amaro Campari. Amaro just means a bitter herbal liqueur. And it's bittersweet Italian herbal liqueur. And the whole classification, if you're talking about multiple different amaros, is amari. So if you have Fernet, you've had Aperol, Averna, Campari, obviously, those fall under the amari category. So it's a bitter herbal liqueur.
Hey, Amy, there was a question. I believe Chris Maxwell asked if Aperol could be substituted and if that would still officially be a Negroni.
It falls under the variation for sure. And yeah, I think having Aperol in it is a great way to eventually work your way up to having Campari. Interestingly enough, one of my favorite Negroni variations is the Negroni Spagliato, which in Italian translates to mistake or uh-oh, or you kind of messed this up, where someone accidentally poured in sparkling wine instead of gin. So it's the same proportions of equal parts Campari, sweet vermouth, and instead of gin, sparkling wine. So it kind of sounds familiar to an Aperol Spritz. They're within the same camp. But I think, yeah, if someone is just learning about Amari, acclimating their palate, or interested in trying it, Aperol, which is a cousin spirit to Campari, is a great way to start.
By the way, Aim, so a long time ago, I went to Turin, Italy for the Grand Prix of bartending. And this was in 1999. So as you can imagine, I was like, what, 15? Ish. So I'm over there with Gary Regan, Dale DeGroff, who's kind of the father of bartending in the United States. Dale, is a pretty good argument to be made that Dale is the singularly most responsible for bringing back craft cocktails in the modern era. And this is a long time ago. It's almost 22 years ago. And all of these things had not happened here. All of these great craft cocktail bars where we go now and we spend $20 a cocktail, that had yet to come back, but it was. So I remember we were in Turin. We went to Cafe Torino where I had my very first Negroni. Now, I have to tell you, I am a poor son of a bitch from Philadelphia. I didn't know anything about drinking back then. My idea was Yuengling beer, Boone's Farm wine, and the cocktail would be the fanciest I ever got was like an Absolute cranberry. Okay. So Dale, I go out, imagine it's like getting a tour of rock and roll with, Jimmy Page or something. So Dale takes me out and we go out and I have a Negroni. I've never had one in my life. And he lines up a bunch of Amaro and we're trying all these things. And he says, he's telling me about how this is all coming, right? This movement is coming and everybody's going to be drinking this in the States. And I'm thinking this guy's out of his mind, right? And obviously I was right and he was wrong. Nobody bought into any of this stuff. No. So yeah, I mean, it was only 21 years ago that it was unheard. Like nobody was drinking this stuff. Nobody, ask anybody if they wanted an old fashioned or a Negroni. They wouldn't know what a Negroni was. Most people would not know what a Negroni was, and probably a handful would know what an old fashioned was. And now to see it where, not only are we talking about how great these drinks are, but the 20 different variations you can get at your local bar on these drinks, it's pretty incredible. And that brings up I want to ask, just anybody jump in, show the hands. Where's your favorite place to get either an old fashioned or a Negroni or both? What's your favorite bar? Because I like to make a mental note. Or I'll call on you if you don't answer. Let me see. All right, Jade Wallace.
Some people, Dan.
Oh, we got some. Oh, I just called on Jade Wallace. Jade Wallace, hi. I recognize you from our last one. Hi, welcome back.
I can't stay away. Thank you.
So where do you go?
My go-to is always the Whiskey House. I just love that bar. I'm in San Diego for everybody.
Okay.
The call. They just the bartenders or the mixologists, whatever you want to call them, are so good at what they do, and they have like an array of different kinds of bitters that they use. Obviously, they have a ton of bourbon and rye to choose from. I think that their well is actually Buffalo Trace, which is like great. Yeah, that's my go-to.
And are you old fashioned or Negroni if you had to choose one?
I'm old fashioned all the way. Old fashioned was sort of like my gateway drink into whiskey. Before I had an old fashioned, I really only had whiskey in a mixed drink, like a Jack, like very, very basic. And I I had my first old fashioned in Santa Monica, and I watched them make it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so simple. Am I even going to like it though? Because there was so much whiskey and I loved it. And so from there, I kind of went off on my own path and exploration into bourbons and then scotches.
Well, welcome to Team Old Fashioned.
The good gateway drink.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Jade. Who's got a great place for a Negroni? What do we got, Keith?
Let's see.
Or it could be an old fashioned. Who we got?
Hopefully it's a Negroni.
We're just gonna. I think Chris Maxwell. What about you? What you got?
Hey, Chris, you're muted. There we go.
I got slow fingers. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Nice to see you again.
Amy, I hate to do it to you, but I'm an old-fashioned guy.
Break my heart.
I know. We have our special, cognacs share, but I'm an old-fashioned guy. I really like it. I like the. I don't like it all the time, but I like the sweetness, kind of every once in a while, to just kind of cut it down. And I don't know. I really like bitters. Isn't that weird? I kind of like the taste of bitters. I really like it. My wife just said you're really weird.
I mean, you can compromise and have a Boulevardier, which is, the bourbon Negroni variation. Just throwing it out there for next time, but
that's true.
Yeah, I would love to see just a variety of things, like I was saying with the Aperol, because I love that flavor. Are there things you can substitute that kind of because I'm not crazy about Campari. I mean, I'll drink it, but I'm not crazy about it. But I like to try different variations on stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Amy said, everybody, just so we know that when she says the Boulevardier, she is talking about a straight swap. Just take same way you make the Negroni, except instead of gin, you make it with bourbon, and you got yourself a Boulevardier.
It's my happy place between a Negroni and an old fashioned, because to Dan's point, it's spirit, water, ice, and bitters, which is Campari, and sugar, which is coming from Campari and also vermouth. But it really kind of teeters that line of having this nice stiff stirred drink that's boozy, that's whiskey, that is bitter, and it kind of checks all those marks. So to me, that's another point in terms of the Negronis, able to diversify quite easily. Should bitters be refrigerated? That's a good question.
What's the question?
Should bitters be refrigerated? Sorry, I just darted right there. I thought it was an interesting question. No need. Vermouth should be refrigerated.
Vermouth and Campari as well.
Vermouth is not the Campari. Vermouth is refrigerated. And by the way, just so everybody knows, vermouth, unlike a lot of other spirits, does not last forever. Like once you open the vermouth, you got 3 months tops. Anything after that, you're going to get a funky taste. It just goes bad. So
that's why I buy the little bottles, because I've been drinking my spirits, neat for most of quarantine. And I'm like, oh yes, cocktails are a thing. I should probably lay off the straight liquor a couple nights a week. So I get little bottles of vermouth, keep them in the fridge, and I feel accomplished when I finish it. And it's not like, oh, this is 4 years old and I should throw it away. So it's a good.
It's a really smart move, because unless you're drinking a lot, in fact, tragic. The other day I had to dump about a half bottle of Dolan because I couldn't.
Shame.
It had been in there too long. So Amy makes a great point there. Get the small bottle of vermouth if you can get it this way, unless I think
you're going through it, then great.
Well, unless let me see, but I think let me look at Andrew there. Andrew probably goes through a whole bottle, right? Andrew Stewart, how where'd he go? There we are.
There you on mute.
You unmuted? Nope. This is fun. This is my favorite.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
I am doing well. I don't go through a lot of vermouth. I'm primarily a whiskey drinker. I like both bourbon and scotch.
Yeah. What do you prefer in your old fashioned, rye or bourbon?
I have been liking ryes lately, and I don't make a lot of old fashions, although I am going to declare myself firmly on team old fashioned because Dad always made Mom a bourbon old fashioned when she had a headache.
Yeah.
If Mom had a headache, the bourbon old fashioned was getting made.
And where are you coming to us from tonight?
I'm coming from Maine.
Maine.
Pittsburgh, Maine.
Pittsburgh, Maine?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Phippsburg. Where is that near Portland? Because that's
It's about an hour north of Portland.
okay. All right. Maine.
Yeah.
I miss Maine. I haven't been there in many, many years. I'm coming from Venice, California. Amy is in Brooklyn, right?
Long Island for the time being, but yes, New York. Soon to
Yeah.
be back in Brooklyn. Sorry.
Who's out there from the middle of the country? Who's representing from the middle of the country? Anybody? Nobody. We're all
I am Colorado
Who's that?
Springs.
Hey, Joe, you were here. Didn't we see you last week or 2 weeks ago, right?
You did indeed. You did indeed.
What are you drinking tonight? Old fashioned or Negroni?
Old fashioned, man. Old fashioned all day long.
Is anybody out there drinking
I
a
know.
Negroni? Somebody's drinking it. I haven't heard from one Wait.
Oh,
Joe, not to cut you off. We'll come back to you, but let's go to
Randy and Kara
Randy
and
Kara.
Jerry.
Let's hear it. Randy and Kara, hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Save Amy, will you? Because
Yeah.
she's feeling, she's feeling neglected right now.
So Amy, I got introduced to the Negroni a number of summers ago and have become a huge Amaro fan, and gone from Negroni to Boulevardier to Old Pal to any number of Amaro forward drinks. But what we did tonight is we made an old fashioned, a Negroni, a Boulevardier, and just to flip it, I did a Bowles Geneva old fashioned to make it.
Oh, wow. You really took it full circle. That is so impressive. And I thank you for being,
Yes.
very diplomatic in your choices and participation. But I think that what other, I know that we're talking about Negronis and old fashions and Campari, but what other Amari have you explored? I just think a lot of people have some questions about, this bitter Italian liqueur and what else it has to offer.
Nonino makes a nice paper plane,
That's
right?
nice. Yeah.
And hang on, let me take a quick look. Montenegro,
Oh, yeah. It's so floral. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's certainly gentler than Campari, but it's a good one.
Amara Maletti.
Oh, yeah. That's like my husband's favorite liqueur. Yeah. All the time we have it.
So, so we've got it. I've
Quite a collection.
Yeah, but so in lockdown we've expanded our Amaros and expanded our cocktails, and there's nothing like going to an old fashioned if you're just and we can smoke some old fashioned sometimes, but I think my default would be a Negroni or a Boulevardier. Yeah.
Boulevardiers are amazing. Like I said, they're really that cross section, and I see other people asking, you mentioned a smoky old fashioned, but then someone's like a mezcal Negroni at GK. That is absolutely a thing. It's delicious. I haven't had a smoky Scotch Negroni, which is something I would love to try, but mezcal Negronis, agave-based spirit Negronis are awesome. It just plays off the flavor profile in such a different way than, let's say, obviously gin or a whiskey, and it's mezcal Negronis are a beautiful, beautiful thing. So if you really work with it,
And where are you guys located, Randy and Kara?
You're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. North Carolina in the house.
Yeah.
We got any other Negroni fans? Anybody else? Who we got over here? We got Jerry.
I'll let somebody else weigh in, but I'd like to weigh in on the Negroni side. I've got some interesting ideas, but somebody else talk.
I think it's Stephen.
We got Stephen. We got Jerry. Look at me. Hey, Jerry, go ahead. You jump in first.
Well, I have to say that Monday, Wednesday, Friday is old-fashioned nights. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are Negroni nights. And we did hit over 400 nights without missing happy hour during this special period that we've had. We actually, the virus isn't the worst. But I have two questions, one for each of you. And one is, I use agave with the old fashioned. I'm a little lazy and make simple syrup. I have never made it with a sugar cube. What does that mean? And second, with the Negroni, I have a bottle of Dolan. Is that always white vermouth? Or can you use white vermouth, or is that a mistake?
You could. It would be drier, and it works nicely with gin. If you're sticking with a white spirit, you could certainly use it. Think of like a perfect Manhattan. If you use white and red vermouth, it makes it a little more lean. And I think if you could absolutely, if you want to take the sweetness down, and if you only have Dolan Blanc, then give it a shot. And if you don't like it, then I should get the Rouge. But yeah,
okay.
Give it a go.
In terms of the sweetness, Jerry, the sweetener in the old fashioned, man, go crazy. I've made them with maple syrup. You can use, I've even done a little bit of the honey in there, a pear liqueur, whatever sweetener you really want to use. The sugar cube is the kind of the classic thing, predating even people using simple syrup. But that's all. When I take a sugar cube and I put water on it, it's basically simple syrup having not quite brought it to fruition. But but you can really do whatever. And the other thing I like to do sometimes is I'll take an orange wedge and a cherry, and I muddle that up with my sugar in there, and do a muddled version of the old fashioned. So I don't know of any, maybe let me think. And if somebody can get me on here, what's a cocktail, if anybody can think of one, where there are hard set rules, you absolutely cannot deviate from this cocktail? Let's see. Anybody got one? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. What's a drink where if you screw with this drink, you screw with the ratio, you screw with the ingredients, you have destroyed. Well, okay. I do know one where you could get sued, which is the, what is it? Dark and Stormy. Okay. So it's this is kind of crazy. So Gosling's, the rum, Gosling is the only case I know of where they actually legally filed to own the name Dark and Stormy. So if you try to make a Dark and Stormy, if you own a bar and you have a drink on your menu called a Dark and Stormy that's made with any rum other than Gosling's, they'll come after you. Apparently they're very litigious. So that's one drink where I know the drink has been copyrighted, I believe, where you have to make it with that rum the same way. But can anybody think of another drink where you can't mess with it? Just throw your hands up. Yeah, no, nobody? Nope. Okay. Let's see. I'll just call on somebody and we'll put you on the spot. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Oh, let's go with Joe. We had Joe on. Joe, where are you? Joe Grigg.
Hey. So right now on the Negroni side, I haven't gotten quite the gin to a vermouth mix right for my flavors. And I've got this Ginski from Boulder Spirits that is gin aged in a new oak barrel. It's really like a whiskey.
Okay.
Super floral, stronger than and got a wood tasting to it. So it's just fantastic. But even on regular gins, I just haven't quite found the balance I'm looking for. And I just read about the Perfect Manhattan the other day. So now I need to go get some white vermouth.
Yeah. Small bottle.
See if I can play with this more.
That's interesting.
So, I'm coming on to a fan of it. It's just that I haven't found out how to do this well.
I think, that sounds like a super interesting gin and like very innovative. And it might even be a very ambitious starting point if you're getting into Negronis. And you might want to just dial it back a little bit and go with a classic London Dry just to kind of get that baseline flavor profile. Because what it sounds like this gin is, it's creating this Negroni that is a hybrid between a classic gin Negroni and then a Boulevardier, because with bourbon, and if it's ex-bourbon barrels or whiskey barrels of the aging, there's a lot going on. So I think what you might want to do is just try something, even if it's, I really like this Roku Japanese gin, which is very citrus forward.
I have been sticking with the basic London Dry, Tanqueray.
And
type
still?
stuff. Just trying to get my flavor profile right.
Yeah.
And
how was it with that one?
Oh, I'm all right. It's again, I'm looking for something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I don't have it quite right. And I also
And you're using a jigger and equal parts?
I only had one kind of the vermouth. I only had one brand. And so I need to find some other brands, and that requires bar hopping because I'm not going to keep on buying bottles.
It's coming, it's coming soon, and
yeah,
I get it. Yeah, you're right on the gin. I mean, I like to go if I'm making a Negroni. There's a handful that I'm a big fan of Forge gin, like my old friend Plymouth gin. I like Beefeater a lot. I'm a fan of Sipsmith, which is kind of a classic London. I got to say Hendrix to me, because we all know Hendrix has that, cucumbery sort of thing. And it doesn't work for me in a Negroni. If there's one very well-known gin that I don't like in a Negroni, it would be that. But again, I Ford's, and by the way, I'm going to drop in a shameless plug here. I'm on the Adam Carolla show once a month. I'm the resident drinks expert on the Carolla show, and my next one will be on the 26th of this month. And I'm doing the top 5 spirits that I brought into the Carolla show during quarantine, and Forge Gin is one of them. It's the gin. So we're going to be voting on it on the show. So anybody that listens to Carolla, or even if you don't listen to Carolla, you could tune in and check it out. And some of those spirits have been on here. Another thing I want to bring up is Chris Maxwell, I saw in the chat, mentioned something that we had on Flaviar NightCap Live. We had Aisha Tyler on the show, and she makes Courage and Stone, which is a ready-to-drink old-fashioned, which is made out of, is it New York Distilling, Amy, in New York?
It is.
Yeah.
Alan Katz's place. So it is a pre-made bottled old-fashioned, okay? You can buy in a small bottle, or you can buy a 7, or you can get the 750. And I got to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of RTDs, ready to drinks, but this one is, I defy you to have it and not think that it was something that you got made at a great cocktail bar in San Francisco or New York. It's really good. So if you don't want to mess around, like you want to get home like we're going anywhere, but when the time comes where we're going places and you come home at the end of a day and you don't feel like making the drink, you could try that. I have a bottle in here, and I do it.
Which one was it?
It's called Courage, and then the plus symbol Stone. Courage and Stone is what it's called. Yeah, and it's I've
got a recommendation. It's called from Rock and Rock. It's from Slow and Low Distillery. It's called Rock and
Slow
Rock.
and Low. Slow and Low is another good one. But again, I'm always I always think if you can make it yourself, make it yourself. But, when you're in a hurry.
Sometimes you have one of those days and you're just like, that's all I can do right now. But yeah, Courage and Stone is on Flaviar, so you can totally check it out there. And speaking of RTDs, not too much, but I saw someone mention Hercules Mulligan, which is Flaviar's own old-fashioned RTD. It's rum and rye, so it changes it up a little bit. Again, if you're having one of those days and you want an old-fashioned style cocktail, and you don't want to actually make it, that's also something. But there's something to be said about making a cocktail yourself, bottling that sugar cube, forgetting the orange peel and the orange slice in the kitchen. Things happen. We have long days, but there are, options to make it yourself or not.
There was Lorenzo Sanchez mentioned the Vesper as far as being a drink that you can't mess with the ingredients.
You can mess with the proportions, though. You can mess with the amount of gin versus vodka. I believe the classic Bond version of it was it 3 parts gin, 1 part vodka, maybe, but you can play around with the proportions. There's got to be look.
What about the Rusty Nail?
No, that's Drambuie. Isn't that equal parts, right? Yeah.
Let's see.
I believe the Rusty Nail is equal parts Drambuie and Scotch.
But not always.
Yeah, maybe. We're gonna. Oh, there's my dog going barking.
But yeah, no, that's a good question. I will Google that, tomorrow.
There's nothing. So in each of those, well, at least the Negroni, right? You could batch that, put it in your freezer, right? Or at least put it in your fridge.
Yeah, yes. And then add water to it when you're ready to serve, or at least shake it really vigorously with ice. But if you just want to,
is there a proportion to dilute ahead of time so it's ready just to pour and go? Isn't there some sort of standard dilution?
There is. Dan, do you know what that is? And I've seen it in research in passing. But
when you're
pre-batching,
I don't ever do it. I don't ever pre-batch my drinks, but so I'm not real up to speed on doing that, but only because I have a very sad and lonely life, and I have a lot of time to just make the drink. I'm never in enough of a hurry to have to pre-batch them. I'm just like, yeah. In fact, much of my day on my calendar, I have a whiteboard in my office, and it'll be like 4:20, make Sazerac, and then 4:45, make, yeah, there you go, blood and sand. And I schedule in some time to make these drinks and then it's like 8 a.m., begin growing facial hair. And then I map that out for several days. And then after a couple of days, I feel like
there actually is 25 to 30% of water is the amount of dilution to factor into pre-batch drinks.
Yeah, I'd say about 20%, 25%.
And of course, you can add more from there depending on your taste, but 25 to 30 is the recommended pre-batch dilution for water.
Okay. And then on the note of pre-batching,
sorry, I'm sorry. I was saying in lieu of an RTD for somebody who likes a Negroni, right? The next time you make one, make a volume, throw it in the freezer, dilute it, throw it in the freezer, and then you don't have to worry about that RTD. You just grab major RTD, right?
That is, I think I know what I'll be doing this summer. Like, just let me get an ice cold Negroni from the freezer. Just let it chill out for a moment and be good to go. But speaking of all these fun, funky preparations from, batching, I saw someone ask a question about barrel aging. Amazing question. Yes, you can absolutely barrel age a Negroni and an old fashioned. It's great because you don't want to have something that goes into a barrel that has dairy or eggs or a lot of modifiers that can expire and go bad. So both of these cocktails would work wonders in a barrel aging cocktail program, or if you have a little barrel at home and you want to just chuck it in there. I think that's absolutely awesome and something that is totally smiled upon.
Amy,
by the way, Amy,
how long? I had an old fashioned aged 6 weeks in a barrel, and I didn't enjoy it as much as a fresh one.
Huh. I wonder what kind of barrel it was. Dan, have you ever barrel aged a cocktail? Oh,
that was to you,
Dan.
Oh, you talking to me?
Oh, yeah. I asked if you had ever had experience barrel aging.
Let me explain to you. I am a very spoiled podcaster / journalist. Everybody does this stuff for me. People go, where do you go and buy your booze? What's your favorite place? I don't. They send it to me. In fact, I have a surprise for us right here, and he'll vouch for this. I told you I'm doing Kentucky Owl, which is amazing stuff. And it turns out the man who started this brand, the man who makes this brand, has just jumped in with us. And this is kind of a big surprise here. We'll get him in. Dixon Deadman. Dixon, where are you?
Yes, I would agree. Spoiled brat. Definitely. That is 100%. He asked me to come on just to verify that point.
Great.
I popped on at the right time. Kind of, it worked out. It's great.
How are you, man? It's good to see you. So, and again, everybody, this is Dick Dixon. This is his whiskey right here, and it is a fantastic whiskey. Can you tell us? Good to see you, first off, man. And I've got the confiscated, which I was making my old fashioned with. Can you tell us a little bit about the brand and just it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, I can tell you everything about that bottle right there that Dan just showed you. It's about the fifth one in the last 3 or 4 months that he's called asking for. that like they see me coming at FedEx and they're like, oh, so Dan's out
Dan
again.
Dunn
I'm
needs
like,
some
"Yeah,
whiskey.
I got-"
Yeah. But it's a fantastic and you know, and the story of Kentucky Al and bring it back. And we've had you on NightCap Live before talking about it. How is everything going with the brand now? You guys are still chugging along?
Yeah, man. Yeah. You know, it's everything is and has been weird and a bit of a struggle, but you know, I think like with most things, we're getting through it. It's been kind of you know, but in terms of that, I mean, you know, confiscated is rolling. Confiscated is one that I always, you know, I always appreciate your support with that, because it kind of lives in both worlds. Like I wanted to make that a whiskey that you could drink neat, that you could just sip on, that you could put in a glass, but also that would play in cocktails and play well in cocktails. So you know, that's why, you know, I always appreciate you know, and when you ask me for a bottle, I bill them for two. So it works out really well for me as well.
Well, and by the way, man, I talked earlier about the provenance of drinks and the origin stories of cocktails. The reason this whiskey is called confiscated is an interesting story in its own right. I guess back in the early 20th century, your family had basically an entire warehouse of whiskey seized, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, when we were trying to kind of come up with another kind of layer to the onion of the brands that are Kentucky Owl, you know, I think one of my favorite parts of the story is that you know, my great grandfather started this brand, but with the onset of Prohibition, he was a relatively small producer, and so you know, the federal government came and they actually seized about 250,000 gallons in barrel of his whiskey, rolled it right down the banks of the Kentucky River and put it on barges. And it was supposedly taken to, you know, safe, government controlled rick houses. And the reality was that, you know, all that stuff you know, it was taken, it was sold on the black market. It made it into speakeasies and you know, it was kind of what, you know, it went Chicago and New York and all that kind of stuff. And about 2 years, somewhere around 1919, my family received word that unfortunately these safe warehouses where my family's whiskey was stored mysteriously burned, and we're really, you know, really sorry for your loss. My great grandfather and my great grandfather spent about 12 years in 3 different lawsuits with the federal government trying to recover some of this, which clearly never happened. But you know, when we were thinking about this, you know, the name confiscated and kind of creating a tribute to those stolen or lost barrels seemed like a fun way to tell that story and a fun whiskey to kind of make. And so, you know, it was really the first whiskey that wasn't a barrel proof, or at least I guess some of the rye were close, not quite, but first thing in the mid 90s that I had created. And you know, I mean, it's just kind of fun because I think it plays at a lot of different levels.
Cocktail wise, it works. And real quick question for you, Dixon. So when you talk about it not being what goes into the decision to release something at barrel strength versus proofing it down a little bit?
Well, I mean, I think it kind of, there's a lot of factors to that. I mean, you know, where you want it to play, what you want people to do with it, what you want, you know, what kind of whiskey are you trying to make? You know, I always, when we started, and when I started Kentucky Owl, I was hell bent on making barrel proof bourbon, because I felt like that was, you know, you can't hide anything in barrel proof bourbon. There's no shortcut. Nobody, you know, I mean, it's full disclosure. You're either good at what you're doing or you're not. And you know, so when I was thinking about what I was going to do and how we were going to do it, and you know, I didn't want any, you know, I'm trying to, you know, create something with as if you didn't like it, that's fine. But I didn't want anybody to be able to say, oh, you're throwing some barrels together and bottling it at 86 proof and telling a story. I feel like barrel proof is full disclosure. Everything's on the table. And so, that was important to me. And that was, I think, that's kind of how we got a little bit of a following. And
that's how you made your bones, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that was it. Yeah,
kind of
right,
trusting what I was doing. And I guess, I hope that, people were thinking this hillbilly may be okay at what he's talking about or something, but, and so it was clearly many years later when, when I first went down, I started working with some rye whiskey, and the first rye whiskey I did was 110 proof. And, I've never done a rye whiskey at under 100, but, confiscated was the first thing I ever did that was in the 90s. And
let me ask you this, Dixon. What do you, since we're doing the old debate tonight was old fashioned versus the Negroni, I'm pretty sure you're going to come down on the side of the old fashioned. Do you prefer a rye old fashioned? Does it matter? Like, what's the most classic definition in your mind? Is it a rye old fashioned or a bourbon old fashioned?
Look, man, you know me, Dan. We've had plenty of drinks together. As far as I'm concerned, as long as it's a good old fashioned, I don't care what, I'm good. I'm with it.
So would you say, and by the way, to that point, we talked earlier about drinks and how you deviate from is there any drink that you can think of where you are absolutely positively not allowed to screw with it in any way? There is a recipe for that drink, because we can't think of any, that where it's got to be that way or it's not the drink.
Just said it, barrel proof.
Well, no, yeah. We mean the actual cocktail itself, or you don't, I guess maybe to the point is this, you're not precious about that, right? Like if somebody says, hey, I'm going to make my old fashioned this way, I'm going to make it with maple syrup instead of sugar. That doesn't bother you. You think,
look, I
live and let live.
If we're being completely honest, the only cocktail that I know of, at least me personally, that you cannot mess with is my mother's Manhattan. You make my mother's Manhattan the wrong way, you're in trouble. But other than that, I think we're good.
How's your mother make her Manhattan? Can you reveal that?
It's sick and it's syrupy sweet, and it's almost like equal parts, Maker's Mark, Martini, Rossi, and cherry juice, but she's happy with it, and just don't mess with Mama's Manhattan,
Okay. Well, hey, Dixon Deadman, man, it's great to see you. And again, how much is the confiscated? Do you know? I wouldn't know because again, I never paid for it.
Around 125 was the SRP.
Yeah. So this is the good stuff here we're talking about. This is and you don't make a whole bunch of it, right?
No, it's always done in very small batches. And as a matter of fact, they're kind of burning me up to get another one going right now. And I also work in the hospitality business. So as soon as I can get this hotel and restaurant going again, I'll get back to blending.
And by the way, tell everybody about that. But this is a James Beard winner, right? At your place? Yeah, tell real quickly because we're all going to be traveling soon, right? We're all going to be going out. We're going to be on the road, and we all love whiskey. So give the shameless plug here of the bed and breakfast it's a B&B, right?
Well, yeah, I've got another. My real life is an inn here in Central Kentucky. I'm the 5th generation of my family to own and operate that. So it's called the Beaumont Inn, Beaumont, Beaumont Inn in Central Kentucky, right in the middle. If you're doing the Bourbon Trail thing, check us out. We're right in the middle of all that. I do personal bourbon tastings at the inn 3 or 4 nights a week. And we have I also have a few special selections for friends of Dan Dunn in the cabinet too. So,
and by the way, this is a setup. By the way, this is a complete setup. If you walk in there and say you're friends with Dan Dunn, you'll be taken out back and they'll do horrible things to you. Yeah. This is a complete setup. No, but I mean, the place is it's a James Beard winning, you got a restaurant, right? Am I screwing this up? Or
no, you're right. But I mean, look, don't come expecting foam and, we're fried chicken, country ham, corn put. we make our food suits the whiskey palate.
Perfect.
So. Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Dixon, man, thank you so much, dude. It's good to see you, and we'll catch up soon. That was a nice surprise here, having it's such a, and I got to tell you guys,
three more bottles on the way, Dan. Three more.
Thank
bottles
you, brother.
On the
I
way.
pray. See, this is why I'm doing this.
Some bourbon too.
Yeah, one of the things, we're having fun here. Obviously, we talk about the Negroni versus the old fashioned. At the end of the day, we all love spirits. We all love cocktails. We're all like, and I got to tell you, the thing that I miss more than anything over these last 13, 14 months is getting out, going to distilleries. I had a friend recently talking to me about she's going to take a trip to Scotland and was asking me places to go, and just talking about that got me excited, where I was like, man, and I know I'm going to assume a lot of you out there probably going stir crazy as well. And I can't wait maybe we'll be doing these in person somewhere. That'd be the coolest thing.
I think so.
We do these on location, but even if we're doing these over Zoom, I can't wait for the day when I get to chime in with everybody and you say, hey, I just went there. And if you haven't done distillery tours before, go do it, because you get to see guys like Dixon, who obviously are super passionate about what they do and engaged in what they do. And that's it. I'm ranting. Anybody got any parting words for us tonight?
Team Negroni.
Can't hear anybody. Yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah. By the way, Amy, I thought you did a great job repping on the Negroni. Here's the thing. This is what I think you're up against. Even though the Negroni's been around for a very long time, I don't think it has the cachet, particularly here in the United States.
In the United States.
That the old fashioned does. It's kind of going, it's like saying, like, what's your favorite blue collar beer? Is it Budweiser, or is it, some newfangled, it's going to be Budweiser if you're going that, because it's just been here for so long. And I think that's the thing with the old fashioned. The truth of the matter is, I love a Negroni. I love a great Negroni. Yeah. So look at this. It's people coming to get.
Exactly. We're celebrating our differences and appreciation, and actually, we are.
Reach out to me. Reach out to me. Oh, and we just. I'm going to go around real quick. I want to get a couple final words. Let's go with this Lisa Yakuboff.
Oh, that's my
she's
sister.
in here. Oh, there we go. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi.
Lisa, which team are you on?
I'm on Team Negroni.
That's right.
Surprise.
I love Negroni. But I said in the comments that I especially love Negroni in the summer, and I love old fashioned in the winter because it's comforting, and Negroni is very refreshing.
She's very seasonally driven.
I am very seasonally driven, but also mood driven. But if I see a Negroni on the menu, I'm into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially if my sister makes it.
I make her Negronis. I make her old fashions. I'm here for you.
By the way, she's sitting 10 feet away from Amy right now.
She's in Brooklyn, and I'm at our parents' house.
Amy just wishes she was here.
I do.
But Campari is just it grew on me, and it's delicious, and I'll go for it every time.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
I see the resemblance there. Trisha, hi. Can we get you? Trisha's like, no, me. She's like, just say hi. She's leaving now. She's going.
She's going off of mute. She's like, I got this.
Can you unmute, Trish? No, you want? Oh, no, she's not going to do it. All right, well then we'll go over to Nick.
Oh, she's doing it.
Oh wait, she's doing it. Did you get it?
We can unmute. Hold on.
Let me. Yes, I'm gonna. Wait. Hi. Can you hear?
Clicking.
She can't. I don't think she's still muted though.
She's still muted. Well, Trisha, we're gonna. You got? Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, I'm old. What can I say? And you made me drink 2 cocktails too.
Are you from Massachusetts?
Did you have them both?
Both of them.
Nice. And which one did you? Which one did you like better?
A bourbon lover.
Okay.
No, hands down. But I think it was the gin made the Negroni too sweet. I was using Gray Whale.
Oh, the Gray Whale from
California,
right? San Francisco. Yeah. Again, I think we already covered this, right, Amy? Like, I think you got to go with the classic London. I don't think you screw around with
but that was after I already made the drink.
which is
Okay.
fine.
Well,
Yeah.
Trisha, we forgive you. It's okay. Where
Thank
you
you.
coming? Where are you coming to us from?
California, Northern.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you have that. That's why you have that gin. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well,
yes. Not to mention my daughter sells it, so
well, there you go. Well, it's a good
I
gin.
get a good
Yeah.
price on it, you know.
Yeah.
Just
all right.
like Dan gets on, his bourbon.
on the
Yeah,
Kentucky. Yeah. Well, hey, Trisha, thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to talk to you.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Amy, who do you want to pick on? Let's grab somebody else real quick before we get out
Oh
of here.
boy. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Somebody is
Marie
turning on.
Fitzpatrick, who I recognize.
Wait, where's
from
Marie?
Hey, I can't get my video to work, so it's like, so I'm sitting here on my second old fashioned. I went and muddled some orange and cherry together, and figured that's my sweetness for my bourbon. I also picked up a pre-mixed. It's on the rocks old fashioned. We can get it down here in Cape May, and they actually use Knob Creek, which is
Wait,
not too bad.
Marie, you're in Cape May. I can't tell at all that that's a Philadelphia accent.
I heard a little bit. I heard a little squishy accent.
I know Marie. Marie is one of my best friend's moms, and Marie is from Philadelphia like me. Do I have a Philadelphia accent though?
Yes.
Water. Now you don't got no Philadelphia accent.
Yeah, water. You put some water in there. So Marie, you're a team old fashioned, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, only because I actually went to the store today to see if I could get a small bottle of Campari, and they only had these giant bottles, and I was like,
I don't need a liter of.
Yeah, and I'm like, if I could get a little bottle, I was going to do it for you, Amy.
I know you would.
I know, and I'm like, dang it! All right, I'm just sticking with what I know.
Next time I'm going to give Amy the softball next time. She's going to get the easy one. Whatever we debate next time, I want to be on the team, having the hard.
I always go against the grain. It's nothing new to me.
Who's not muted that I'm hearing? Is anybody hearing this besides me? Like a radio thing? Am I hearing this? Zoom, I love you. Anyway, let's go real quick. Let's look. Wait, who did I just see there? I just saw somebody I want to call on. Helen Kwok. Helen. Ooh. Helen was looking away. I want to get her involved here. Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Where are you coming to us from
tonight? Santa Monica.
Oh, so you're like right up the street. There we go.
Yes.
Okay. Old fashioned or Negroni, Helen?
Old fashioned, just because I haven't tried Negroni yet.
Okay. All right. So you're leaving it open that you could be swayed over to Team Negroni.
That could be a post-COVID goal. Go to a bar, order a beautifully executed classic Negroni, and take it from there.
Bourbon or rye, Helen, in your old fashioned?
Bourbon.
Okay. See, look, we're great minds. Great minds think alike. Well, awesome, Helen. And Southern California in the house, repping. Let's see who else we got here. We got Andrew. Look at Andrew. I like Andrew. He's got the sonic headphones going on. Andrew Benner. Hi, Andrew.
Hey.
How are you? Ooh, look at that. What kind of microphone are you?
Do I sound okay?
Yeah,
you sound great.
Where are you coming to us from, Andrew?
Brooklyn. So the other side.
Okay. Old fashioned Negroni.
Negroni.
Oh, look at
Negroni and Brooklyn. Yeah. Sign me up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I think the Boulevardier is a good compromise, but I think any good cocktail is kind of magic, and I think the Negroni is more magical because it's like these things that you don't know if they're going to go together, and then they're incredible.
And it's like poof, amazing. Yeah, I relate completely.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, Amy. I don't know, and Andrew, thank you. I think we leave it there because I want you to feel special. Amy. I want to leave it with Negroni. There we go. Andrew came through for me.
Thank you.
I want to, unless anybody's got any pressing issue they need covered here. Does anybody, Keith, is there anything that absolutely has to be dealt with?
No, I don't think anything has to be dealt with. I would just like to see what the tiebreaker is. I mean, I think we should figure out once and for all who's the best. Is there a way we can figure out a tiebreaker for this, or?
Well, the old fashioned clearly won this thing, right? I mean, there's no, I think Amy would even, and again, we're all winners I'm not going to look at anybody drinking a Negroni and say you've lost. You've won. We've all won here. I think at the end of the day, we just spent an hour talking about great spirits. We got a guy that owns one of the best bourbon brands in the country jumped in with us, which is great. And I got to hang out with Amy and the rest of you. And it's nice seeing familiar faces from a couple weeks ago.
Love the familiar faces.
And I don't know. I don't know if there's anything more that we need to go over here other than, we're going to do it again soon. Be great to see everybody else back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuesday night drinking club. I don't know. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
It is Tuesday. Yeah. I'm telling you though, Aim, in a couple of months, we're going to be doing one of these like in a bar somewhere.
I think
seems like a lot of people are Brooklyn that are on. So maybe we do the first one in Brooklyn and we get a lot of people come out, and then we do one in, here in the Southern California, and we get Jade and who else?
I'll host one at Stranahan's.
Oh, we'll go to Colorado and host one at Stranahan.
Colorado, yeah, it'll be great. So, listen, everybody, I want to thank you all for jumping in with us on this thing. It's really a lot of fun. It's great to just look out and see a bunch of faces and see everybody happy and having drinks. And Amy, you did as usual. Magnificent job bringing it.
It's all because I'm chatting with you.
Yeah, but I mean, you had an uphill battle. I
did.
And
thanks
I thought
for everyone.
I thought you repped. I think the Count, if the Count were alive today,
I'd be proud.
He would be proud. And Scarsati, the guy who invented it, they'd be
just that guy.
They would applaud you. And that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for jumping in with us, and hopefully 2 weeks or 3 weeks we'll be back again. We got a couple ideas brewing what the next one's going to be, but I hope to look out. I'm studying the faces right now, so I remember next time. But I hope to see you all back next time we do it. All right, and cheers, guys.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Good night, everybody.